All right. Good morning or good afternoon or whatever time you're watching this. I am Angelina and this is,
Danielle.
and we are here hosting. You can't make this SHIT up. I know they always kid me because I don't actually say the word. So, Danielle, did you know that more and more young women are becoming more and more progressive?
I did. I live in Central Florida and I go to UCF. So, yes, of
That's your
course.
answer for you. Well, according to The Guardian, they discuss a new global research showing the increased political progressivism among young women with the spread of offensive deepfake pornographic images of Taylor Swift online. It explores the implications of misogyny in politics and highlights the growing trend of young women embracing progressive views. Despite facing backlash, and challenges, empowered Australian women like Grace Tame, who is a sexual assault survivor and advocate, and Chanel Contos, sexual
Consent.
consent, oh my goodness, advocates are reshaping the political landscapes, offering hope for meaningful change and greater empathy. Let's go.
Yeah, let's get it on the road. All right.
Yes, let's go.
I have a question for you in the
Awesome.
form of an
I may have
article
an answer.
by Julian Schultz. She says, if politics is personal, is it any wonder women are becoming more progressive? So, what do you think?
So this is really interesting to me because in this article, and if you guys do end up reading it, it's very interesting because she starts off by, talking about something that's very meaningful, sexual assault. This is something that no matter if you're on the left or the right, you should be discussing because this is happening to women, right? However, her conclusion is this means do not go red. Do not become a conservative because conservatives are the ones that are wording you. And that's just a take that I just don't understand how she got to, right?
Yeah. So, I agree completely with everything. But my stance is Democrats are welcoming these survivors with open arms. And then what they're doing is, of course, they should be doing that. But what they're doing is they're pointing fingers. They're pointing fingers at the Republican Party and saying who represents them. And of course, it's Donald Trump, who's not known for being the best person ever.
Right.
So immediately, these young women are getting persuaded and they're going to vote liberal and more progressive because everybody's pointing fingers at our party, even though I feel like our laws and the way we view things as conservative women is more protective of us.
Absolutely.
Oh, I just turned the mic off by accident. But yeah, so it's no wonder, especially with like Taylor Swift, who these women are looking up to. She's voting blue. She's voting in support of Biden. And like I said, they're all pointing fingers at Donald Trump. So no, it's no wonder that they're voting more progressive.
And you know what I find very interesting and also inspiring? I never thought that I would compliment a Swiftie or Swifties, but these Swifties are on a mission to get these deep fakes out off the internet, right? And keep in mind, like the article states, they are not millionaires. Okay, they do not have much money. In fact, they're probably making below the national income. And the fact that they are trying to do everything that they can to get this off. So I must applaud them for that. Even though that I may not be the biggest fan of Taylor Swift, I'm going to admit that this is wrong and I feel for her. I couldn't imagine that your reputation is on the line. And I think that's sort of the conversation that, that this AI technology that I despise so much has to offer is, how do you know what is real and what's fake?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. But then we have to look at the sexual assault thing too, because like I said, these women empower all of us. Well, not all of us, but a huge majority of women, all the women I know actually have a sexual assault story.
Wow,
so then we have
interesting.
girls speaking out, and of course they should be speaking out against it.
Absolutely.
But no wonder that they're voting more liberal, and because politics for women has always been personal. It will always be personal no matter what anybody says, with laws like Roe v. Wade and then the Evidence Act in Tasmania that Grace Tames has gone out of her way to talk about. So the Evidence Act in Tasmania is a law banning sexual assault survivors from sharing their information. This law is supposed to protect them. However, it's more keeping their mouths shut. It's taping their mouths shut because their assaulters, yeah,
yeah, there you go.
They can speak out.
You mean the scumbags?
Yeah. No, because sorry, we're getting a little off the road, but I want to
fault.
point this out. No, for the Grace Tame's instance, who, like I said, she went to school in Australia and she was groomed by her coach.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Her 58-year-old coach.
Wow.
And like I said, she could not speak about it because of this act. But he was getting interviewed. He actually, I have a quote by him too. He was claiming that sexually provocative behavior from female students in his interview. Yeah. Wow. And she couldn't speak out about it. So she made the Me Too campaign and is a very active influencer on that case.
Wow.
But yeah, so then you have women like this in Australia and they're going to vote progressive.
Right.
So why, as a young woman too, if I was younger.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Danielle. Just to clarify, the story that you stated, is that from Australia or from the US?
That is from Australia. So the Evidence Act is in Tasmania. It's in Australia. It's not in the US.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Like I said, this has spread all over the world. That story has spread all over the world.
Absolutely.
And she's voting more progressive in Australia and she's sharing her story. So a young woman, all these, and the ones who have gone through sexual assault are looking up to her and hearing her story.
Wow.
So instead of doing the research on both parties, they're just following that lead more.
Absolutely.
Which, go do what you got to do, but I think you should definitely look into your parties and who you're voting for.
I 100% agree with that, Danielle. And one thing that I have an issue with conservatives is that we don't make that information as easily accessible, right? And yet we have the audacity of commenting on people that, that's trying to do what they believe is the best, right, for their life and just for their safety in general. And for these women, they believe that voting blue is the way to go in order to protect themselves and their bodies from harm. And I can't blame them because I believe that the modern Western media has sort of portrayed that message to them. So I believe that as conservatives, we need to show women, hey, with us, we're going to protect you. That is the whole point of the conservative movement, is to protect you, is to ensure that you are safe to walk on the streets. I mean, not every single, but many conservative movements are about making the country a safer place. The whole point of many of these laws is so that way young ladies like me can walk down the street and not have to fear getting sexually assaulted.
I completely agree there. And I want you to talk about the Middle East in that case with Donald Trump.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for bringing me to my next point. Thank you so much. So I know that Donald Trump hasn't exactly gotten the world's greatest rap for women's rights. I mean, whenever you think feminism, you do not think about Donald Trump.
And wait, let me say that we are not supporting anything he has ever said about women.
Oh, yes.
Or anything.
However, I do see, I separate him from what he says. Now, am I going to say that I am for every single thing? Absolutely not. A true conservative man does not say those things. A true Christian man does not say those things because, I mean, if we look at, what the Bible says, it clearly rebukes those things, right? So all I'm saying is that I've seen growth in Donald Trump. And I have seen that he's starting his conservative journey. And I really saw that during his presidency in 2016. So in 2016, Donald Trump really influenced the rest of the world. And this is something that's just not talked about. So within the Middle East specifically, young women during that time were actually able to drive for the first time, and they were able to not have a male escort. They were able to actually go places by themselves, which in America is something that we definitely do take for granted. But in the Middle East, that was something they just never knew, and they were excited for this new profound freedoms that they had. However, you fast forward to 2024, and you would think that this has furthered their liberation. But unfortunately, it's the exact opposite. In fact, it might actually even be worse than it was before. And do we have a conservative person in office as of right now?
We do not.
We do not. So I think that many people are just pointing fingers at Donald Trump and saying, it's the orange boogeyman that is causing all of this, when that is not necessarily the case. I mean, you even look at Joe Biden, for instance. I mean, if liberalism is for women, then how come women that have spoken out against Joe Biden are getting gaslit for saying, hey, I may have felt a little uncomfortable by certain comments that he was making?
Yeah, I completely agree there. And honestly, where was that coverage in the Middle East when all of that was happening? with our news.
That's very interesting.
Where was that covered?
Yes.
I had never heard of that until you told me.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
No, I had never heard of that.
That's very interesting.
And especially like with Roe v. Wade this past year or so, it was during a Democratic presidency.
Right.
But you know what everybody still did? Point fingers at the Republicans. But
said this was Donald Trump's doing.
And I'm not saying that was everybody and every Democrat
not.
ever. A lot of Democrats pointed fingers at Biden, but still.
We're mostly talking generalization.
Yeah, in general. But still, everybody was pointing at them where we're like, no. No. But still, I don't know. It's hard because you have these strong women who are going to vote blue. And it's just
I just believe that these women, you know, they just need to be educated too, and we need to talk to them. You know, it's not their fault that they don't know. And I'm not going to call them dumb, or I'm not going to call them uneducated or anything, because it's clear that these young women, especially Grace and Chanel, at least I hope I'm saying their names right, that they are doing their research and they're trying their best to get informed, and they want to get involved in politics. It's just that our modern media, unfortunately, is lying to them, and our culture as a whole is lying to us ladies. And I think that's where some of the confusion comes from, because, you know, the conservatives, you know, you see certain conservatives like Benny Johnson, for instance, who just criticizes certain leftists, as opposed to saying, okay, I hear you out, but here are the facts, you know, please hear me out. I'll hear you out as long as you hear my side out. Yeah, we have to stop coming at each other like that, because it's pushing more and more people separate ways. And we're not saying that being a Democrat or being a liberal is wrong. Like, you support what you support, truly. But for these young women, they need to do their own research too. Absolutely. And they need to hear both sides of women, like conservative women and liberal women. And then they can do their own research and decide. But and use their own discernment to decide, hey, is liberalism for me, or is more conservative for me? Or maybe it's something in the middle. Maybe you're moderate, and there's nothing wrong with that. Not at all. But like you were saying, instead of Republicans attacking the Democrats and being like, blah, 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 we need to take a more just calm and moderate view for both sides do, because liberals are coming at Donald Trump and the Conservative Party, and conservatives are coming at Biden, and we all need to just shut up and behave. Shut up and behave. Sorry. Now that is a YouTube short clip right there. Shut up and behave. And I completely agree with that. So just to wrap this up, you know, we're not trying to attack anybody or their beliefs. However, we're just trying to encourage you just to do your own research, and to maybe consider the fact that the conservative side is not trying to go against you. In fact, even the overturning of Roe v. Wade is not to take away your personal rights. It's actually to protect you in a certain circumstance. You know, for an example, it's trying to prevent you from making a harmful decision that's going to impact your life. Yeah, I mean, for that one, it takes different views too, because I view Roe v. Wade differently. Okay. But like I said, we have the right to view things differently. And that is why we live in America. America. Gosh. Yeah, that's our stance. All right, so that is our stance. Any final words? No, just do your research, people. And shout out to these amazing women, honestly, Grace Tame and Chanel Contos, because they're making, we could go into this. Wait, no. They are making such an impact on sexual assault survivors' lives and in general. And that is absolutely amazing, and not discrediting anything they are doing or saying. The Me Too campaign is amazing. So yeah, shout out them for real. Absolutely. And our criticisms were mostly towards the article itself, as opposed to these young women. So thank you so much for clarifying that, Danielle. But my final word is, you know, please get out there and vote. You know, do your own research and conduct your own research, so that way that you can form your own opinions. And that is all on my end. So what should our viewers do? Our beautiful, lovely, talented, magnificent viewers. Like, subscribe, share. You can't make this shit up. On that one. I'm sorry. You can't. That article's crazy in some ways, but we won't talk about it. Oh my goodness, y'all. I'm very disappointed right now. He's cheering.